All right then, Maximilian.
All right, then, David.
Shall we go over the nootropics that are herbs and plant-derived compounds?
Yes, please.
Yes. So this is a continuation of the previous episode of the Neutralize podcast, where we covered the basics of biohacking. So sleep, exercise, nutrition, and mindfulness. The risks of nootropics and how to mitigate them. And we also covered dopaminergic nootropics and the applications of them, such as ADHD and depression.
Yeah.
And today we'll cover herbs and plant-derived compounds. What
Sounds
do you know about them?
Oh, I mean, I don't know much. I've tried using ashwagandha, which I believe is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had some effects with that.
Mm-hmm.
Not too much, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I've tried some.
What dosages and what were the effects?
Well, I do believe that I experienced a more calm state. And the dose, I think it was 200 milligrams 2 times a day.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Something around 200, 300 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think I was, at that time when I was using them, I was in a really good state, like generally.
Right.
So that may have mitigated, or like I didn't feel much effect of it because I was already in a really good state.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, it can be hard to see the effects of a compound if you are already in a good state. Oftentimes it's the case that nootropics help you get from, it helps you reduce your imperfections so that you can have less cognitive dysfunction or cognitive impairments, and especially with adaptogens, that's the case, such as ashwagandha.
What do we mean when we say adaptogens?
Right. So those are compounds that help you handle stress better. So instead of having your stress levels go through the roof when you are exposed to something which you do perceive as stressful, your mind and body can slightly increase it, and you don't have to get a crash afterwards then from the negative effects of being stressed. Because stress can be very good, it can improve your performance, but it can also decrease your performance if you don't recover efficiently.
Right.
And adaptogens help you recover quickly. Yeah. And ashwagandha is one example of them. And 400 milligrams is not that big of a dose. So if you were already feeling very well and very calm, then I wouldn't expect much more than what you did experience, such as being slightly more calm.
So what would you suggest? Should I double that dose and see what happens, or should I just cut it out entirely?
Well, if you're not feeling anything at 400 milligrams, then I'd double the dose. I'd first do my research to see that it's not dangerous to do that, and see that other people have done it, and seen that there's science behind doing that. But for ashwagandha, there is no problem with using 800 milligrams per day. So I'd try it out, see what effects I get. Maybe you get side effects at that dose, then I'd cut it back to 600 milligrams. Slowly experiment to find what dose works for you, and see what effects it has on your mind, and see if you want to use it every day as a specific time of the day, or if you want to use it in specific contexts.
Would you say, like, it depends? How much does it depend on when you choose to do it, to take it in the day? Like, how do you know? Because I've had an idea that whatever I use, it's gonna be I'm gonna feel it throughout the day.
Right.
Or the effect, I'm gonna feel the effects throughout the day, but that's not necessarily the case. I mean, if you just consider alcohol, you usually feel the effects of it for a couple of hours, and then it disappears.
Right.
So with ashwagandha, should I expect to only have that effect for a couple of hours, or should I expect to have it throughout the day?
Well, I'd say that it's more for a couple of hours, and you may, or depending on the dosage and your individual biochemistry, you'll probably feel a bit of an effect in the evening as well if you're taking it in the morning. I like taking it at around 4 p.m. so that I don't have so that I'm not too calm in the morning, because I don't like to be too calm in the morning. I want to get motivated and get stuff done most of the time.
Yeah.
I think that ashwagandha actually increases my motivation because it's increasing my well-being. But if I'm going to take it, I prefer taking it in the evening because it also helps me fall asleep better.
All right.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that with both ashwagandha and L-theanine, you felt like you could become sluggish.
Yeah. With too much.
Yeah, with too much.
Yeah.
So you'll have to take that into consideration. Like it may impair your cognitive abilities.
Yeah. If you take too much.
Yeah.
Right. It's all about finding what works for you and sticking with that.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd suggest, in regards to your consumption of ashwagandha, that you continue to experiment. And if you've been using this for a while now and don't see much of any use cases of ashwagandha in your life, then I would suggest that you increase the dosage, unless you're already at like the extreme upper limit of it. Which, if you were, I would have a hard time seeing how you could experience much more than being just slightly calm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's never a surprise, or rather, it's not a surprise now that you're not experiencing these effects that other people say they are experiencing from ashwagandha. It's just about finding the right dosages of the right nootropic for you.
Right, because like one thought I had right now was that, I mean, I guess you could take it like as a like better safe than sorry kind of thing, but I mean these compounds they cost money for one.
Yeah.
So I mean, just taking a supplement for being safe rather than sorry, but you're not feeling any effect. I think that doesn't really make sense. So if you're not feeling the effect, then maybe you should just cut it out entirely.
Yeah. Right. So if you're not feeling an effect from, like, either you could cut out ashwagandha entirely, or you could change the dosage, which I suggest that you do, because 400 milligrams is on the lower end of the dosages.
Yeah.
I agree with your statement that it's not much of any, there's not much meaning to continually using a nootropic that doesn't give you any effects that you can feel.
Yeah.
Unless you haven't given it enough time. Because, for example, fish oil works mostly over time, and Bacopa Monnieri gives you better memory more and more potently the longer you use it for the first month or two.
Yeah, that's a tricky part as well. Like if with some nootropics or alcohol, for example, you'll feel the effects almost immediately. But I'm not sure if they're like all nootropics would give you that effect. Like maybe you have to take it for a week or 2 or 3 or even a month before you even start to notice that effect.
Right.
And that's the tricky part.
Yeah, it is.
Like, how long would you suggest? Like, do you know of any nootropic that might take up to a month before you even start noticing any effects?
Probably be nutrients, like vitamins. Vitamins. Maybe fish oil. Otherwise, I'd say that if you don't take too little of, for example, bacopa or turmeric, then you'll feel them in less than a month.
Sorry, less than a month.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That was your question.
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it can be frustrating or annoying if you're taking something that you also paid money for and you're not feeling any effects. Then
Mm-hmm.
maybe as a beginner, it's better to start with something that you can feel the effect of immediately, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Shall we move on to the other nootropics under
Yes.
the herbs and plant-derived
Yeah. Sure.
compounds? L-theanine. I know you have experience with that too.
Yes, I have some. Yeah.
What are your experiences?
I guess. Well, I think what the mistake I did, or the mistake I made, was that I quickly introduced L-theanine shortly after using ashwagandha, or starting using ashwagandha. So, like, I mean, I said earlier that I felt the effects of ashwagandha to be like I was more calm, but maybe I can attribute that also to the L-theanine that I started taking shortly after. But yeah, that was the effect, I would say. Feeling slightly calmer and easygoing.
Yeah, both of these do have that as sort of their main effect, relaxation and feeling more calm.
What experience have you had with them?
Right, with them.
Yeah, with them.
Both of
or
them.
with
Okay.
L-theanine.
L-theanine to start with, and then ashwagandha. L-theanine, I do find that it does relax me, but I don't use it all that often because I do feel like it doesn't make me productive, because what is productive to me is usually to have a lot of thoughts, and I feel that L-theanine slows down my frequency of thoughts. That is very anxiolytic, to not have any thoughts and be focused and just in the moment, essentially. So for well-being, I use it sometimes, but in dosages around 200 to 400 milligrams.
Would you say that it could help with enhance your ability to be mindful?
I mean,
if you're not having, like, if the frequency of thoughts is decreasing, then
right,
would it help you to be more present?
Yes, I do think that L-theanine can help you improve your mindfulness practice, indeed. Yeah. A little caveat to that, and to L-theanine in general, is that L-theanine works very differently for different people. Many people, such as me, don't like the effects on their cognition from L-theanine, and many people feel like it's the only time they can perform cognitively because they're not constantly running around, not being relaxed, essentially, I guess. Yeah. So once again, there's a huge individual variance, and you got to find the right dosage of the right compound for you.
Right. So since it says that it's a nootropic from herbs and plant, like it's a herb and plant derived compound, where can you find L-theanine in, like, from, I don't know, normal foods?
I think you know the answer. Do you?
Well, teas.
Yeah.
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 So is that like, because like
tea.
growing up, I think it's like a common knowledge thing that tea might help you relax before bed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you take something that has caffeine in it.
Yeah.
So what would you suggest?
I wouldn't suggest drinking green tea before sleeping.
So there's no L-theanine in rooibos tea?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I only know for certain that there is in green tea.
Yeah.
And I do like the effects of green tea on my productivity. I think it's maybe because the amounts of L-theanine are so tiny. And maybe I should experiment with very low dosages of L-theanine, such as like 30, 40, 50 milligrams.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I just had an idea that it would make sense if like there's L-theanine in tea, but if there's also caffeine, that wouldn't help you fall asleep.
Right.
Maybe there's some other effect of tea and a warm beverage that will help you fall asleep.
Yeah. Could be psychological as well.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
So I know you had some weird experiences, or some experiences with Bacopa Monieri. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Right. So I love and hate Bacopa Monieri. I'll start with the pros,
Yeah, sure.
which are improved speed of processing, object recognition, free memory recall, and this one is a big one because it is crucial to reasoning and any intellectual work, essentially, that is demanding to have a strong memory. It's very important for cognitive performance. And Bacopa Monieri lets me remember almost everything I'm trying to remember. Like any information that I have previously experienced is available to my mind when I take Bacopa Monieri.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is, indeed. And maybe I'm a super responder to Bacopa Monieri. I respond very strongly to it in comparison with other people, because I do think that in comparison with what I've read other people experience from it, it's more powerful for me than for other people. But other people also experience memory improvements from it. And it is one of the most scientifically researched nootropics out there. I'd say probably caffeine, L-theanine, maybe amphetamines if you want to include those in the category of nootropics, which I don't, but then those would probably be the nootropics that are more researched than Bacopa Monieri. Otherwise, I think that Bacopa Monieri has a lot of research, essentially, showing that it does improve your memory. And that is something that I experienced as well. I experienced one sort of mood lift. Like my default mood was very good. And I had essentially no anxiousness. Like anxious thoughts were non-existent. So moving on to the cons.
Yes.
I really wish they wouldn't have been true for me. Like that the cons wouldn't have been there for me. Because I do love those cognitive enhancement benefits of Bacopa Monieri. But it does give me anhedonia, which is an inability to experience pleasure. And even though I don't live a hedonistic lifestyle, pursuing pleasure, I do think that it is very important for your well-being to be able to experience pleasure. I'm experiencing pleasure right now, even though I don't think about it when I'm talking to you and when I'm recording this podcast. We have a baseline of pleasure in our lives, which gives our lives meaning.
Yeah.
So removing the ability to feel pleasure is not healthy in my opinion. And it did give me depression. So I was both sort of less depressed by default and more depressed because I sort of made me a bit apathic.
What does it mean?
Apathy. So
you couldn't feel emotions.
Lack of emotions. Yeah. Which was a bit depressing. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before, that you derive a lot of your happiness from being productive.
Mm-hmm.
And but when you were using Bacopa Monero, you didn't, even though you were productive, I assume you couldn't feel that happiness from being productive. Was that it?
Yeah, I'd say that it was it. I could still motivate myself to get stuff done.
Yeah.
I worked no less or more than usual.
But you did have more like cognitive abilities, or like you're enhanced cognitive abilities.
My learning skills were incredible because I could contrast the current information, which I was learning, to whatever I'd been learning previously on that topic. So I could contextualize, for example, Bacopa Monero. I want to learn about what this is. Okay, it's a herb. It's an adaptogen. I know both of those things. And usually you may not think about that consciously when you're reading the word Bacopa Monero. You may think, oh, this is a nootropic. What can it do for me? But if you have those two categories come to your mind straight away when you're looking at Bacopa Monero, then you can much easier understand what it is doing. It is helping you adapt to stress, and it's a plant-derived compound. So it helps you when you are learning if you get a lot of associations.
Yeah. You can connect the information to a lot of different other things in your network of information.
Yeah, right. And I think that's the only side effect I had, but it was so bad that I'm not continuing using it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about like, you could still work and you could still motivate yourself to do work, but you couldn't derive any pleasure from it, or you couldn't feel happy from being productive.
Right.
I feel like continuing doing that, not like having any pleasure or happiness from being productive.
Right.
I sort of think that would limit your ability to be productive in the long term.
Yeah.
If you would continue on that.
Right. My thoughts during the time, the reason why I didn't quit as soon as I did feel anhedonia was that, as we talked about in the previous podcast about the basics of biohacking, risks of nootropics, etc. Mindfulness sort of entails that you shouldn't derive your happiness from, for example, productivity.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the reason why I didn't quit as soon as I didn't feel any pleasure from productivity. Because I reasoned, why do I need this pleasure in order to get stuff done? But I came to the conclusion eventually that it's just not healthy to not be able to feel pleasure.
Yeah. That's amazing. What pleasure, feeling pleasure, what it does to us.
Yeah.
Like what motivates us.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, indeed.
So would you, I mean, you said you you had pronounced, or you had a lot of the effects in comparison to what other people have reported. So do you think others don't experience this anhedonia?
I do know that there is an individual variance. So there are a lot of people that have also experienced this effect. But I do know that there are a lot of people who didn't experience anhedonia as well.
Okay.
And did get the benefits.
Okay. And they can keep using it long term?
Yeah, I know people who do that, yes.
Okay, that's amazing. So would you recommend like researching it? I mean, it's on this Reddit, so I assume it's a useful nootropic without the severe side effects in most cases.
Yeah, I mean, they have amphetamines on this on this list as well.
Okay.
I think they're doing this to inform people about the risks and the rewards of the compounds that are commonly used, which is a great approach, I think. Otherwise, people are just going to make decisions from word of mouth information, which will have a great risks for side effects, and you'll not get the rewards you're looking for, which is essentially what we're trying to do here at Neutralize too. Yeah. Make decision making in regards to nootropics easier for the user.
So can we say anything about, like, I haven't ever used this nootropic, but I feel like just talking about it now, the effects of it, I'm super stoked to like do more research and eventually start like trying to use it. Yeah. But I mean, I guess we shouldn't ever recommend someone to just do it. Just go do it and try it. Like, do your research first. So that's what I should do. Yeah.
I mean, we at Neutralize don't recommend doing any nootropics.
Yeah.
We try to help you, if you're interested in doing nootropics, make the best decision for you so that you can feel better and perform better cognitively. And if you come to the conclusion based on something we say and based on the research that you're doing on the web or in textbooks maybe, I don't know, that Bacopa Morieri, for example, is the right nootropic for you, then it's your decision, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. All right, moving on to the other ones. We have caffeine. Yeah, I think there's not much to say about it other than what we said in the previous episode.
Yeah.
I usually use caffeine either once per 14 days to avoid tolerance completely, or in around 40 to 200 milligram ranges for focus, selective attention, being able to focus on what I'm working on and not get distracted by other thoughts. I think it helps me with that. I don't see the risk-reward ratio of using 400 milligrams of caffeine every single day being a good one. I think that the risks and side effects outweigh the rewards when you use caffeine like that, and you quickly build a tolerance and have crashes every day.
That was my question. The question that came to mind. Like, what do you think about people who use, like, do, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 cups of coffee every day? Maybe it's not such a good idea, because you're only building tolerance, and eventually, well, I've heard that people experience like headaches and maybe even like their baseline of wakefulness, or if you can talk about that, that the baseline is lower when they're using so much caffeine every day.
Yeah. So
can we come to the conclusion that you shouldn't do 4 or 5 cups a day?
For 95% of people, I think that's true.
Yeah. So cut the coffee. Cut the coffee, people.
Cut the coffee. I think there's only a couple of more ones. Curcumin.
You
don't have any experience with that?
I haven't.
Right?
No.
So you probably want to use bioperine.
Sorry, what's that?
bioperine, which is black pepper extract, together with curcumin. It was found in a study that it increased the bioavailability of curcumin by 2,000%. So you'll have to consume 1/20th of the normal dosage of curcumin to get the same effects if you use bioperine together with it. And most brands sell them both together because there's science backing up the efficacy of that combination.
Shouldn't they like blend them together? Just
Yeah, they do.
okay. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I use curcumin quite often. I feel like it slightly wakes me up, slightly boosts my wakefulness. Same for mood, antidepressant slightly. The effects are quite slight for curcumin, except for one effect, which I'll cover too. But I first want to cover the fact that it is anti-inflammatory for me. So if I have brain fog, it helps a lot. Or acne, or symptoms of inflammation. The effect that is very potent from curcumin for me is the spatiovisual memory, which is like the space and vision that I've covered. So currently, if I'm looking at you, then the vision of space that I have is your body, your eyes, your face. And if I start recording this podcast in 10 minutes and then 10 minutes later I try to remember what your face looked like, then I can have a more or less vivid image. Similarly, if I'm on a walk, I can have a more or less vivid image and mental representation of what routes I took.
Right. I think you mentioned when we were talking earlier that you don't really see how that helps you.
Yeah. It doesn't help me for my goals. I'm not looking to become good at like the sport of orientation. I could see curcumin being great for that. Like mapping routes in your own head.
Right.
But I'm not looking to improve that part of my cognition. I could see how mapping routes like on a mental map of different concepts could be helpful for me, but I don't think that it actually helps me with that. I think it's more of a visual and like in space, where have I been sort of effect.
Okay.
That improves my memory for that. And it doesn't just improve my memory so that I can use that part of my memory whenever I want to. It sort of intrudes on my attention and awareness, even though I'm not looking to retrieve information of where I've been.
So it could even be counterproductive for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is why I only use it sometimes when I have inflammation symptoms or want to raise my mood for the day.
So when you have inflammation symptoms, that's like after having poor diet or okay.
Yeah, essentially that. Or if I haven't exercised in a long time, but that doesn't ever happen. So nutrition.
Yeah. But for someone who, I don't know, accidentally eats a pizza,
accidentally,
then you could have, and you experience a lot of brain fog, then you could have some curcumin to cure that.
Yes. Individual variants once again.
Yeah.
But try it. May work for you. For that specific example, I think that alpha lipoic acid and other blood sugar regulators work well for preserving cognitive function. Curcumin does this as well, but very slightly.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So once again, slowly experiment your way to something that works for you. And do your research beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not as excited about this one
Yeah.
as I am about Bacopamonieri.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's useful to know.
Yeah. And I
Should
think
I
that
accidentally eat a pizza?
yeah. And I think that the mood benefits shouldn't be underestimated as well.
All right. Yeah.
It could help many people with mood.
Yeah.
I think there's relatively large strong scientific evidence to back that claim up that curcumin enhances mood.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Ashwagandha we've already talked about. Rhodiola rosea.
Tell me about this.
I'll tell you about it.
Yes.
It does help me think more. It increases my frequency of thoughts, which I like. It also increases my mood, and I don't feel fatigued ever when I use it. I like the nootropic in general. The only thing that I'd say is that it is hard for me to get really relaxed, cognitively, mainly. It's not like it's like caffeine and you cannot physically relax, but cognitively, I just keep thinking about stuff. So I cannot like focus on my breath, really. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's. I mean, talking about the symptoms or the effects. I was like, okay, but it sounds like caffeine.
Again?
I felt like the effects that you were talking about for rhodiola rosea is similar to caffeine. If you're saying like the frequency of thoughts but you can relax, but there is a difference.
Yeah, there is a difference, but they are similar. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried them together?
I have.
And how was that?
I think it works well.
Yeah.
One positive effect of that is that you don't have the I think that it helps against the crashes of caffeine, because caffeine crashes can be stressful, and rhodiola rosea is an adaptogen, so it will help you handle that crash better.
All right.
I think.
I mean, it kind of seems like both of these like shots your cognitive. I don't know. As we said, like the frequency of thoughts, it shuts that up into the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, not. There are more potent nootropics, such as modafinil,
yeah,
that will really shoot your cognition up into the sky, and frequency of thoughts up into the sky. But these increase your frequency of thoughts, yes.
Okay. I mean, I feel like it would, like, combining them, and that would make things hard to, like, how do you deal with all these thoughts that keep popping up?
Yeah.
But maybe I mean, that's just my idea of what the effects would be, but
right.
I for sure I'm gonna like research and try it myself.
Yeah, in my experience, and I think that I have generally a low affinity to negative emotions and anxious thoughts, like actually believing anxious thoughts. And I attribute much of that to both a strong baseline of feeling well and practicing mindfulness for a long time. But my experience is that the more thoughts I have, the better control I have over them.
Okay.
Because I'm more cognitively able in dealing with the one thought. So if I have one thought, then I have stronger cognitive powers to deal with it if I'm constantly thinking. So I'm more rational and therefore can see. It's easier for me to deal with thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All of these are. I mean, I haven't tried them, or I haven't tried rhodiola rosea, so I can just. I mean, I don't know, but I need to try them. I can just listen to what effects you're having.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Rodila.
Okay.
And your
Cool.
comments.
Thank you.
Yeah. St. John's Wort. I haven't tried this one.
What have you heard about it?
I've
Or
heard about
have
it.
you done your research?
Yes. It does increase your serotonin levels, I think. Yeah, so here it says its main active constituent seems to be hyperforin, which seems to inhibit the uptake of serotonin, dopamine, GABA, and norepinephrine. Of course, there's a big dose-effect relationship, I suspect.
But what does it mean? It inhibits the
Right.
uptake of serotonin.
Right, so that means that you're going to have higher levels, let's say, higher concentrations per receptors. You're going to have less of a deficiency, let's say, or higher levels. Let's just put it like that to simplify it and make it practical. Because your neurochemistry works more to the effect of inhibiting the reuptake of neurotransmitters entails that there will be larger concentrations of these neurotransmitters in the synaptic cleft, I think it is called, which makes you experience more symptoms of higher concentrations of those neurotransmitters in the brain. And that is what this compound does. It's also what, for example, modafinil does to dopamine. It's what most antidepressants does to, or they do to serotonin. Serotonin reuptake inhibitors. They're also selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, which are also used as antidepressant drugs.
What is this norepinephrine?
Right, so norepinephrine is a neurotransmitter which has the effects, if you want to look at your experience, how it affects your experience. It has the effects of making you more awake, alert, specifically. Caffeine increases norepinephrine. Yeah, that's the main effects. Wakefulness, alertness. Can also lead to stress and anxiety if you have too much.
All right. Like, just going through this, this is the sort of the beginners or a beginner's article about nootropics, and I think we talked a little bit about that previously. But why is it important to know about what is actually going on in your brain when you use these compounds?
Right. Well, it isn't important if you want to solve a specific problem one time, and if you find a solution, you want to continue to use that for your entire life. But if you want to evolve your ability to improve your cognition and mood over time, then I think that it can be very useful to have an understanding of the underlying mechanisms of these nootropics.
Right.
So that you can create a mental map of how, for example, a serotonin reuptake inhibitor affects you, or how dopaminergics affect you. You can probably see some commonalities, similarities between alcohol and caffeine, even though one makes you more awake and one, at least if you use large enough dosages, sedates you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
they both raise your mood, and raise your mood, right? Especially if you don't have tolerance. So you can start building mental maps of how your brain works, and therefore how you can change how it works in order to get the results you want from it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe as a beginner, where do you even begin? Like with this, like researching what happens.
Right.
Do you start with a compound and then try to figure out like what does this actually do, and then move on to the next, or should you start with some kind of overview of neurochemistry, or what would you suggest?
Right. So I think that it does depend. So are we assuming here that you want to evolve your skills throughout time?
Yeah.
Well, I would say that you can gain a lot of knowledge from reading about nootropics specifically, and that will probably make it more fun for you because you have a context and motivation to understand specific neural mechanisms. So, for example, what we talked about earlier with norepinephrine or serotonin reuptake inhibitors, you now have a context and a potential practical use case of that information in your life, which I think will help you learn it.
For sure, yeah, of course, yeah.
In contrast to just studying, okay, serotonin reuptake inhibitor, that means this term,
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, something that applies to your life or something that you're doing, of course, it's easier to learn it. I mean, it's kind of similar to how, I don't know, history or something that was completely, I don't know. I didn't, like back in school, like in middle school or whatever.
Right.
I wasn't interested at all in history for some reason. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
But that made it so much harder to learn about.
Right.
So of course, putting it into a context which makes sense for you.
Right.
Makes it easier to learn about. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Right. So we're trying to use our brain here at Neutralize, trying to change how our brains work so that we can get results. I think that it can also be useful to change the metric of results to fit what your brain is naturally motivated to achieve. So, for example, learning things that have practical applicability will be much easier because you're interested in them. And that is something that you'll gain an understanding of as well if you study neuroscience. So neuroscience has many more applications than just altering your own neurochemical, like the underpinnings of your experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about this, like improving your cognitive abilities, or learning about this and improving your cognitive abilities will help you learn even faster. And that makes sense, right? So you start learning and you start using nootropics and you start feeling better, or like performing cognitively better, and it's a compounding effect where you start feeling better or start performing better, and then you just build on that.
Right.
So it's like an exponential effect, and that's what I think is so amazing with this.
Yeah.
You can just start a snowball, and then it just keeps snowballing. Yeah. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. Exactly. And in order to get that effect, I think it is very important to have the right mindset to using nootropics. You're not looking for a quick fix. You're looking for long-term results.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listening to your body then is one hell of a skill to develop for getting those long-term results.
Right.
Do we have any more?
I think we have some more, but
Kava, and that's the last one. I've used Kava, I think it is very good. I think you used kava once too.
Yeah, you gave me some.
Yeah.
And I did not do my research.
You did not do your research. What did you experience?
Ooh. Well, I can't really tell because there were many other circumstances that impacted my experience at that time, I think.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's I don't know. It's really hard to tell what happened at that time.
Right.
And I only did it once. So
Yeah. And I gave you a very small dosage as well.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but what are your experiences with it?
My experiences are that it is very anxiolytic and has very much of an antidepressant effect. And it's almost too potent for me to use it in my day-to-day life because it just has too much of a psychological effect because I just feel too good almost. So I don't want to use that too often because I want to have I feel like it's almost distorts my intellectual view of the world.
That's that.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that?
Yeah, I can. I feel like it makes me feel so well that I feel like I don't have to do anything. Yeah.
So it makes you less productive, or what?
I mean, I can still do work. I usually just continue to work no matter how I feel, except for if I'm feeling too stressed, which is sort of the only sign that I'm looking out for and trying to prevent, because it's not long-term sustainable to feel stress and continue.
I mean, one thing that came to mind is like I feel like that kind of ties into like this search for pleasure and productivity that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Like how if it makes you feel so good that you're not really motivated to do anything else. Is that good or is it bad? Like it's like you're looking for pleasure by performing cognitively. That's kind of the association or the logical path I'm making. Like if you're taking kava and you're feeling so good, you're not motivated to do anything. So that means that you're already getting the pleasure that you would have otherwise got from performing well through work or being productive.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I think so. I think it's true.
So I guess it kind of depends on what you want. Do you just want to feel good, or do you want to be productive?
Right.
But what productivity also gives you is the feeling like you feel good if you're productive.
Yeah.
So which one would you prefer to have? I mean, I'm not asking you because I already know your answer. But I mean, for someone who considers taking it, maybe they could reason about that.
Right. I think that the reason why I'm not using kava all that much, I've not completely said, okay, you cannot use this anymore, which I have for some compounds. The reason why I don't use it all that much anymore is because it does give me pleasure, and I'm very hesitant to use compounds to induce pleasure because I don't want to alter my perception of pleasure from having a conversation with you, for example.
Yeah. I mean, we talked a little like the I guess this kind of this is a huge conversation, like talking about what are we actually pursuing in life. Do we actually pursue are we only pursuing things in order to get pleasure? But what would then happen if everyone was just feeling 100% pleasure all the time?
Right.
Would that be something that people would prefer to have? Or is it the ups and downs that people enjoy? Or that's a huge question.
It is.
It's like the Matrix kind of
Yeah, it is.
scenario.
Yeah. Maybe for another episode.
Maybe for another episode, yeah.
Do you have anything you want to add to this episode?
I think we covered we covered all of the herbs and the plant compounds at least that were listed in this article. So
Yes.
I'm very happy about this.
I'm very happy about this episode too.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.